I'd
etc.
love to just kind of get a start on you and introducing yourself and how you got to time to build.
Okay, cool. Um, yeah, I'll cut me off because I can always spin a funny story,
That's
and
cool.
you and the audience might get sick of it, but happy to share. So, for those who are listening and maybe haven't heard of Time to Build, it's an online cohort-based programs that teaches creators and professionals how to build a powerful personal brand. And I joined the cohort that was run by Australian creator called Tom Noske. I joined in cohort 4, so I can't say I was there from the very, very start. And the catalyst that kind of inspired me to pull the trigger and finally invest in the program, other than seeing the momentum that Tom was already getting, a lot of the results, a lot of the testimonials that were, popping up at the time, was I was actually struggling in my own journey in building my own personal
Mhm.
brand. And this was a season of my life when I had run headstrong into about 2, 3 years worth of solopreneurship or being my own entrepreneur, self-employed, running a video content agency, something we both share in common, and I'm sure we'll chat about
Yeah.
today as well. And I think I just hit this point of it was exhaustion, call it desperation, call it coming to my knees and really being humbled by realizing that if I wanted to go far, I need to do it together. You've probably heard the African proverb, which is if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. I realized at that point I went fast, but I went nowhere fast. Or I
Yeah.
don't even know
Yeah.
which direction I went to. I just went straight out the gates with gusto and energy and nervousness
Yeah.
and just kept hitting all these dead ends and U-turns and 180s that many of us do in entrepreneurship. And I can look back and now say I'm appreciative that those moments happened because it wouldn't have put me back on the course that I needed to, which was
Mhm.
being able to put my hand up and say, I need help.
Yeah.
And I want to reach out to someone that has done what I've wanted to do and is a
Yeah.
few steps ahead of me. So that was really the kind of context of the 2, 3 months before I eventually joined cohort 4 as a student. That was about June 2023. So actually two
Mhm.
years ago from the time we're recording
Yeah.
right now,
Cool.
which is crazy to think about the arc then and there. And then, yeah, if you'd be open to it, I can kind of share a little bit more about how I went from student to guest
Yeah,
teacher
I'd
to
love to
eventually
know
part of the
more.
program. Would you want to hear?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm happy to, man. So, um, I joined the program, and at the time, I was already kind of like in this beta phase of a cohort community-based offer. It was called the Storyteller Sprints, and I was
Yeah.
basically trying to help the younger version of myself. I had the offer kind of dialed in. I was getting product market fit, so I'd validated it with people in my community. I learned how to pull together a landing page. I kind of understood sales and marketing from previous roles at Google and Uber, so I kind of understood that, the top of funnel. But what
Mhm.
I was struggling at was I was struggling at kind of the launch and the promotional side. And I think a lot of us, including me, still struggle showing up and genuinely promoting our work, our services, and what we do. And as a solopreneur, or at least getting started, you have to be your biggest fan before someone else can. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to do that. And it's not narcissistic, it's not vanity. It's just from a place of like, you have to have undeniable conviction and belief in the business or the project or whatever it is that you have even before having evidence of it. And so I don't think I had that at the time. And I often find that one of my shortcuts is I borrow it from other people. And so I saw Tom, basically, he was like a really good role model and a mentor in my life from afar who was able to do that remarkably well. He had these results that he'd proven in his own personal business. And now he was sharing that and helping others out there. And it was both selfless in that he was helping others, and it was also selfish. He was
Yeah.
also creating a remarkable business and a movement around it. And I think I just really loved the duality of it. He wasn't
Mhm.
this like Lamborghini flexing 22-year-old who
No.
was just like flaunting lifestyle. There was this live stream I did with him actually just around the launch of cohort 4. I was playing around with the format on Instagram, and he like I'll never forget. He just like down maybe it's the Aussie bluntness in him, which is what I love, and obviously we're fellow Aussies. But he was just like, I'm going to be completely honest. He's like, I'm not running a charity. And he's like, the challenge that most creators have is they posture online like as if they're a charity and everything they're doing is from goodwill. When we know the reality and the agenda is they're trying to earn income. And as
Yeah.
soon as you just be real and tell your audience that, it's like there's no incongruence. They back
No.
you. They understand how that works. You give value, and in exchange, every now and then, you put an
Yeah.
offer in front of them, and whoever wants to put their hand up and say, "Hey, I need that," or "I want that," they exchange. But for
Yeah.
everyone else, it's okay. And when he said that, I was like, that is the way I want to learn how to build a business or, build my profile online. Whatever he's doing, I'm on board that. So I joined cohort 4. I
Yeah.
was like, I say this a lot to people, but I basically like worshipped the school of time to build. I
Yeah.
decided to stop having shiny object syndrome and I dropped out of a few masterminds. I had like 3 or 4 unfinished courses from other digital products I'd bought, and I just logged out of all of them, closed the tabs, and I went
Yeah.
horse blinders for at
Yeah.
least 6 months. Whatever Tom's doing, I'm going to stop having this distraction or analysis paralysis where I'm trying to do too many things. And I'm just going to implement his model and just see what happens. For the first time in my life as a business entrepreneur,
Yeah.
do one thing for more than 6 to 12 months and see what happens. And the results spoke for themselves. In fact, they happened a lot quicker than 6 months.
Yeah.
My program at the time, I started having record launches. I wasn't burning out. I understood how to do email marketing and how to basically get people on social onto an email list and to nurture.
Yeah.
And
Is
there are
this
just so
the
many unlocks that I
creators
had.
creators of charisma?
So that was my failed project we can go back to in
Okay, okay.
2022.
Oh, that's the
And that's
name
why I
of
ended up
it.
joining. So it's funny. So Storyteller Sprints and eventually Time to Build was my
Yes.
kind of like, was my comeback story after failing miserably in 2022. And I'm definitely happy to
Awesome.
go there. And after Tom had seen, I think, the momentum of my program, and I let him know when he saw what I was posting, he actually asked me to come back and just present like a masterclass or a thesis on community building, on everything that I'd learned and wanted to pass on to others. So I
Mm.
got a taste of that in cohort 5. I loved it. I remember I was so excited pulling together the slides. I was so honored to be able to like pay it forward to the same community that had given me so much. And we got such great feedback that like straight after the call, Tom came off and he was like, dude, he's like, what do we do? Like, how do I work with you? Like, how do you join the team? What do you want to do? He literally said, it was a message. It was like, he like immediately after we jumped off, he just messaged me. He's like, dude, that was unreal. Great work. And then like an hour after, I was like, adrenaline full. And he just sent me a long message. And he's like, mate, like, how do we work together? What would you want to do
Yeah.
with the community? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I've never written my own job description. So we stewed on it and we went back and forth. And between cohort 5 and cohort 6, we just had a lot of chats, a lot of FaceTimes. He was like, how would you think about the community? What needs to change? As a student, as someone that's run community at Google and at Uber, like what's it missing? What do we need? And I just kind of, I was just giving him because I was invested in the program. I was like, I'm not trying to pitch or anything. I was just like, this is what I think. This is what I do. This is what we plug in, retention here, onboarding experience. Let's maybe get a little bit more practical. How do we really like make this world-class as an educational experience? And one thing led to another. And eventually he was just like, mate, like, let's get on board. We're going big. We're stretching. We're going for the moon. Tom was leveling up. Time to Build. He was adding more lessons, rebranding, building a landing page. And he was like, I don't think I can do this, without having some help. So that's how I joined in cohort 6 for the first time and I'm going to give you a multi-hyphenate answer. So this might be wrong.
Go
I hope
ahead,
Tom can correct me. Customer success manager, head shooter, operations manager, back end wizard, and general 2IC, COO, part-time therapist for Tom as well, through all the highs and lows of it. So it's a bit of everything, man. That's how I landed there.
Okay. So you mentioned COO. You kind of think of yourself as a creator COO. Where did that really come from?
I appreciate you, man. You've got very thoughtful questions and very good research on
Thank
your
you,
end,
thank
man.
you.
I love that. I love that. So that originated as a kind of a throwback to my first step into having a professional job. So I was initially set to have the corporate pathway and kind of become like a consultant accountant at the big 4 firms. I kind of got offers. I graduated like valedictorian of a
Yeah, the
Bachelor of
Ubers, the
Business.
Googles.
Yeah, that's it, right? And so then I kind of pivoted into this like near illegal startup at the time called Uber, and I was hired as this thing called like an operations coordinator. And I was like, what the is that? Like I had no, if you say that, I was like, operations is this vague term that no one really knows.
Yeah.
And what I learned from like 4.5 years of working there on the operations team, like building the Uber Melbourne, launching Uber Tasmania, joining the regional team, is operations is effectively all of the systems and the processes that just make something run and make something sustain. And I realized early on that one of my top 3 highest values is I love systems and I love connecting things. I was a Lego builder growing up and my dad was an engineer, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. So and I love just like, it's weird, but I have this weird fetish of like, I like being able to break or deconstruct things because I'm confident I can probably build it back together. And I understand things better when I can do that. And so operations was just this like catch-all umbrella term for like, all right, we need someone to write an email to 50,000 drivers in Melbourne. You've never written an email. You don't know how CRM works. Okay, go learn, Dan. And in 2 days, you got to learn how to do it. Or you need to learn how to like query or pull from our database this thing called SQL. It's like the coding language to search databases. I'd never used SQL before in my life. And now with like, whatever it was online at the time, YouTube and all these other things, I had to learn how to do it. So you just learn how to do all these things and patch things together. And you're a really good firefighter. So operations was always like a part of like my professional skill set. But to complement that, I was also doing what was at the time being just a content creator. And that's not the creator where like, you run an online education business. That's a creator where you get AdSense and brand deals and you're trying to become
Yep.
the next Mr. Beast.
Yep.
So I was emulating the Sam Colders, the Matty Hapoyas, all the YouTube travel influencers with creamy 4K drone shots and beautiful cinematic stuff. And I was making that content on the side. And basically, to answer your question, long story short, these two worlds of mine have converged into this phrase I've kind of like engineered myself. I don't know if anyone's really used much of it,
Yeah.
but I love working with creators and I'm really bullish on the creator economy, especially like the value creators that teach, inform, educate, and really impact people. But I also realize that with a lot of creators I've worked with, especially that I've had the privilege of working with in Time to Build, they don't quite have the operations and the back end that I'm very lucky I practiced at both Uber and Google. So when I would get on calls with friends who would ask me, hey, like, how do you run this? And I'd show them like an automation or a template or all these things that I take for granted. They were like, what? And then I'd look at their back end, and I don't know how vulgar we can go on this podcast, but let's just say it was a shit show. I saw some back ends that were like shit shows. I was like, dude, you're holding this together with like sticky tape and luck and faith. And I was like, okay, so I now realize there's this cool intersection where there are people who have incredible audiences and are on really inspiring missions around their area of authority or their expertise, but their business is like a trap or a prison and they can't scale and they can't operate or they burn out. And I just think there's so many people stuck in that where I was like, if I can use my skill set as an operations manager to help people, create these sustainable businesses and kind of overcome the early issues I had, even as a solopreneur, like I'm happy to pay that forward. And so hence this Creator COO was born. And that's kind of part of, I think, my current season of life, which is to help bridge those two worlds together.
Yeah. That's so good, man, because in Time to Build, what I realized is like you guys are everything about you need to systematize everything, all of your content creation processes, you have to create a system for it. And even when I'm thinking back on my own business, so we recently completed a very kind of newish project, which is this massive brand campaign. And because it was so custom, we didn't actually have any kind of good processes to work through all of that. Now that's coming to a close, the client's very happy. They literally messaged me yesterday saying like, Lawrence, you just get us, which is amazing.
Well done.
Right?
Yeah, man.
But they didn't see the the entire mess that we had to go through.
Yeah.
Thank God. Creating systems for your business is the only thing that will allow you to gain any kind of leverage, I think. And so the same thing goes for content creation. Oh, you mentioned Lego, so I'm gonna go throw a different bit of a.
Let's do it.
Question. What's the next Lego set you're looking to buy?
Oh, bro, Matt, you got me there. So I had I was like big on the Star Wars Lego sets when I was growing up.
Cool, yeah.
And they're all currently sitting at my parents' home back in another state. And so I think what I was working through at the time is I wanted to try and just like move through all 6 episodes of the entire like Star Wars series, the original one, not all the new ones that are crap and maybe that's contentious in the meantime. But I think I was due to get like, is it like one of the Falcons or I can't remember which. You know what? I'm gonna have to come back to you on this one and just like insert it in the clip over here at the moment because I've actually got this list I've got written at home and I haven't seen it recently since I came back. Can I flip the script onto you and say what niche of Lego or what sets have you been like teeing up? Are we like collector edition level? What are we building?
So funnily enough, actually in during the whole pandemic phase, I actually decided to invest in Lego. So I bought sets on sets on sets of Lego, an enormous amount, all pretty much a large chunk of my savings, because I thought that this thing was gonna this thing was gonna make me.
Everyone's going in crypto and commodities, and you're like Lego, baby.
And so because I was looking at these guys who were promoting this stuff on YouTube, I came across it. I thought this was an interesting idea. And I saw that there was a trend that Lego does increase in value in America, but not in Europe. And so that was my mistake that I had bought a bunch of sets in the Netherlands and it never rose in price. So I was set with like I think 250 sets of different Lego sets in my room. I've gotten rid of like 95% now. So I've got a little bit that has to go out the door. But basically maybe made 5% on it. And so,
Oh,
and that's over a four or
yeah.
5 year period.
5 year period. Yeah.
So
Did you sell it to Europeans or did you sell it to Americans?
no, I sold it to Europeans.
Okay.
Because selling to Americans, there was no point because I'd have to pay all of
Shipping
the
costs.
shipping and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. It
And
would just net out. Yeah.
and I thought at the time that eBay is big in the United States. eBay is
Yeah.
big in the UK. I don't know how eBay is in Australia. Is it a big thing? Is it a big thing that people
Somewhat all right.
use?
It's not the biggest, but it's
Okay,
there.
it's there.
Yeah. People
In
flip on it and do stuff like that, but it's not like America.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In Europe, nobody uses eBay. Like barely anybody uses eBay. So that was another problem that I was facing that I didn't have a platform to sell things on.
Of course.
Anyway, I digress.
I
So
love I
next,
love the hustle though. I feel like and I'll let before you jump in on that one. I feel like everyone's got that early story of either the primary school hustle where they're selling magazines or
yeah,
candy, or they're doing
yep,
lemonade
that was
stands,
me.
and like that's that scar. Like you get to own that story going forward. So when you're like the multi-billionaire, that's the
Yeah,
humble beginnings that makes you, grounds you back on
yeah,
earth, and everyone
exactly.
goes, all right, he hasn't had this like flawless run. He's not a trust fund baby. He's
Mm,
had his scars.
you know. Oh, next Lego set that I want to buy. Ooh,
Mm,
I have to go with like I love the space theme that Lego has. So it has to be one of the rockets. Maybe it's they have the
yeah.
International Space Station. They have um I actually
Mm,
have the Saturn V in my home in my parents' home in the Netherlands. So
bro.
yeah, that's like the big rocket that I spent way too
Yeah.
much money on because I was being stupid with money.
Hell yeah.
But
Hell yeah, bro. Man, that's unreal. I feel very inspired. I feel like, yeah, I got to pull the trigger on the Millennium Falcon, but I know it's hard to
so
find.
cool, man.
So
Yeah.
good. So good.
So thinking back of building sustainable systems, but also the complete dedication that that takes and the conviction that you need to have in order to achieve something. So for you,
Yeah.
when did you decide to go, I'm going all
Wow. I
in
think of
regards to content creation?
yeah, content creation specifically.
Yeah,
I think I wish I could say that I like woke up and the clouds opened and like, the grand organizing designer of the world
yeah,
to turn down to me and was like, today is your day. This is the runway. But the reality is, man, I actually still don't think I had a day or a single moment where I went, I'm all in. I think what
mm,
happened instead is the universe. I think it goes either one of two ways. And this is me going on a bit of an esoteric, like little side quest. So run with me on this. It's kind of like either you sit on the fence and you're like, I'm waiting, I'm waiting, I'm waiting, I'm waiting. And if
yeah,
it's right or if it's destined for you, there will be some external event or a gale force wind or someone come behind you and just push you in. If that means you need to take the jump or
yeah,
jump out of the plane with the parachute, whatever it is. I think that's what happened to me for a very long time. And I don't think it's right or wrong. I think what happened was I just struggled with a lot of self belief, self image. Had a
mm,
lot of those challenges growing up. I was a bit of a black sheep in a lot of environments I grew up with. That's kind
yeah,
of part of my evolving identity. And so I felt this need to kind of like play small. However, I was very grateful. I had incredible mentors, incredible teachers, just the right friends, people that come into your life just for a season. And they may have only been in your life for like 1 or 2 weeks or 1 or 2 months. They may have said
yeah,
one thing or introduced you to one person, but it's like they had such a profound shift in your trajectory that it's like you wouldn't be where you were. And I can even like talking right now, I can think of the 4 or 5 people that there were all these minute moments where it's like a friend needed a second assistant while he was shooting like a wedding or something, and he needed someone
yeah,
just to man a camera. I've never manned a digital camera before, but he just put it in my hands and went go. And like, do
yeah,
you know what I mean? That's the thing that started my journey. It's like, oh, how do you do this? I like telling the stories like that. And my dad, for example, he was the '90s, early 2000s dad with a big, chunky, thick Sony hand cam.
yeah,
And he would record all of our family videos. So he already primed me
yeah.
to, the idea of
Which
storytelling and
are the
capturing. And
best.
dude, it's just the OG.
I
Like
love those videos.
it's isn't it like it's something analog? I guess it's like what audiophiles have when they pick up records. It's like picking up a
Mm,
VHS for videography nerds is like that's what it represents for us. And
yeah,
I had so many of those in my life. Certain competitions I won around content creation, just being in different positions in my life where it was like I just had to step back, connect all the dots, and go, if I don't do this, like this is going to be the biggest regret I'm going to have in my life in my
yeah,
80s. And so it came more out of like, I have all of these crazy signals that are saying full send. you need to go do something right now. Otherwise, you're going to miss this window. Otherwise, you're going to look back and regret for not doing it. Rather than like, I wish I could say I woke up one day, beat my chest and had the crazy conviction. And it wasn't until then I started building and stacking more evidence to close that gap between like, the imposter syndrome that we all experience. That I was like, oh, I'm somewhat okay at this. I enjoy it. And it was starting to get to that point in the mid to late 2010s when content creation was starting to become a viable career, not being an influencer, but like monetizing through other ways. And so things started clicking, and fair to say, I still feel like I was late to the game, but that was my kind of journey to it. Very slow burn.
Yeah.
How about yours?
So apparently, I was always creating videos as a kid. I had like a
Oh yeah.
um, I would just record like on the VHS tapes, right? I would just record
Yes.
stupid like little prank videos with my brother or something like that, or
Yes.
we're
Yes.
just swinging on a tree and that's the video. Also,
I
like
love it.
when I'm thinking of VHS tapes, I think of not caring.
Yes.
That's what I think of when I see those
Yeah.
videos. It's we're not trying hard, we're
To
just
perform.
recording the moment, and
Yeah.
for me, I
Yes.
love that. I
Yeah.
love just capturing things as is, and which is actually funny. Just thinking back, that's actually what I do in the content that I do for corporate businesses.
Yep.
I tell them all the time is I can't turn you into something you're not. I
So
can
good.
only show you what you already are. 'Cause there's a lot of
Mm.
businesses that have their corporate environment is not that amazing. It's quite
Yeah.
bland sometimes.
Yeah.
But and even there's ways to make that more look more interesting. But this
Yeah.
is what it is. This is the reality of the business. And so you'd be dishonest if you were to show something completely different. And so
Yeah.
honesty in content is super important, and authenticity that you guys talk about all the time.
Yeah,
I
bro.
went off a bit of a tangent, so I'm trying to remember
That's okay.
where we
We're
where
just
we
ebbs and flows like a good river, just follows where it goes.
yeah. So I also had a Minecraft YouTube channel. So even to this day, I'm
Bro.
26 now. I still
Yeah.
love Minecraft. I grew up with it my entire life. Been playing it
Yeah.
since I think since I was maybe 13 or 14. So
Wild.
from the
Bro.
beginning, from the moment it came out, I've been playing
Yeah.
it my whole life. I even play it when I have time, to this day. So because
That
like
needs to appear in your content way more, bro. That you've
yeah,
got to start
I
doing
gotta
that.
I gotta start doing like Minecraft tutorials when it's like content creation for, but
So
have
good.
like those
That's your
Minecraft
niche.
clips, audio in playing in the
Yeah.
background. Those videos that you see
Yep.
on Instagram. But yeah, been doing that, and then I started managing social media pages from like around 2018
Mm.
because I took a year off after high school because I had no idea
Nice.
what I wanted to do.
Amen. All of us.
And
Yeah.
it was actually during this time that I ended up in I was in a relationship with somebody who was quite abusive. Yes, sometimes they would hit me, they would get upset for no reason. Like this, like these very small things um that can happen, she would get extremely upset about, like overly upset.
Mm.
And so that my whole character was like my whole personality was like shrunk
Mm.
because you're not trying
Mm.
to upset this person.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. So during that time, I ran social media pages, ran that to 70,000 followers, but I had no way of monetizing it. I had no way, I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
No idea. Like I sometimes sold advertising spots for like 5, 10, $20. It was nothing.
No way.
Yeah.
$10. I think, oh man, I think it's gonna be like 5, 10,000 or something like that. Oh
No, 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 no,
man.
no. Like,
Yeah.
because this is what people were offering.
Mm.
Because you could, because it was also the drop shipping phase. So during that time, I also tried drop shipping and
Yeah.
tried drop shipping my own products to that page. So the
Oh
idea
yeah.
was there of growing an
You're
audience
right.
first and
Yeah.
then selling
Yeah.
something.
And then traffic, and then yeah, product. Good. Good.
Exactly,
Good.
but it was just wasn't successful.
Oh,
So
okay.
then after a trip that I took with that ex-girlfriend to London, so moved to London, applied to courses, studied architecture, obviously broke up with that girl, and then um, after studying, like in my first year, to be honest, I was already like, I'd rather do business. I was constantly distracted by
Mm.
starting new projects, undertaking new things.
Yeah.
Then by the second year, I was like, okay, this is architecture is probably not it for me. Third year comes around, architecture is definitely not for me. But
Okay.
I love this this idea, this thing that you talked about merging um,
Yeah.
merging ideas, merging your experience into one thing. And I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
for me, even I started doing this around 2018, where, okay, I have no idea what I want to do in after high school. I'm just going to write down everything that I like, everything that I'm good at. And I wrote that
Yep.
in a notebook, and it's still somewhere in the
Yep.
Netherlands. And then I just started combining things, started combining
Yeah.
different ideas. That's how I came to the space art theme page. So you can still look it up. It's called Space
Still there?
Overviews. Yeah, it's still there. It's still
Good. Yep.
it's dropped in followers, but
Tag
it
it.
still
We're putting in
exists.
the description for
Yes, we'll
everyone
put it.
after this podcast. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so it's about combining things. And so I was interested in social media management because I'd done that with this
Mm.
space art theme page
Mm.
before, and architecture because I still liked architecture, just not being an architect. Started combining that and then came up with social media management for the architecture
For,
industry.
of course. Very good.
But the response to that was it was kind of there, but it was hard to convince an industry that is very traditional to something like social media management. Like you need to ramp
Mm.
up your social media pages and start
Mm.
creating um, inquiries through there because I knew that that was
Yeah.
possible. I just didn't know yet
Yeah.
how. But
Mm.
convinced a couple of people to hire me to start making content for them because the thing that I realized is all of these business you can do social media management. They don't even have any content to begin with.
Mm.
So I started shooting stuff on my phone, then borrowed a camera
Nice.
from the university, then purchased my own camera, and then I just started creating professional video content since then. So did that for about a year, and then at some point, I think not to praise myself too much, but I was just like I was good from the start. I
Yeah.
was already good, and I learned very very fast to like the quality increased like exponentially. And then about 7 months ago, I decided to make a shift where I started asking different kinds of questions to people in the built environment and to my clients. It went from what kind of video do you want to what goals do you want to achieve as a business in the next
Mm.
3 months, in the next 6 or
Yeah.
12 or even
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
When I started asking those types of questions, the budgets also started shifting
100%.
because it became about achieving real business goals and not just how I phrase it,
Yeah.
doing videos for shits and giggles. You know, you need video,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
need content to create a positive ROI for the business. Otherwise, why are we doing this? There's almost no
Yeah.
point to it. So
100%.
since then, we've just been
Mm.
tying real business goals to content, and then we just implement the right kind of video strategy into the businesses.
Yeah.
And we spoke about the results. I actually don't know if I can even mention the
Yeah.
number because it's quite
We could say it's a
lucrative.
5-figure, 6-figure
Yeah.
number. We could say
Well,
that, right? Yeah.
I'm just gonna blur it out. So they did a million in revenue just from winning one project.
Jeez.
And
That was directly attributed to a video project you had
yeah,
collaborated on
because
together.
we
Yeah.
implemented the videos into their tender, what they call it. So this big document, and
Very
then we
good.
had
Yeah.
9 staff spotlight videos where we introduced like a mini personal brand in the company, where we introduced these
Yeah.
people, their
Yeah.
personalities, what they are good at, how they're going to
Awesome.
contribute to the project,
Yeah. Yeah.
and maybe a little blooper here and there. And
Yeah.
that basically meant that the client got to spend X more amount
Yes.
of time
Yeah.
with their team over other people.
Yes.
And so that adds to the thing that you guys teach as well, which is the whole nurturing process of clients. Are you want your clients you want your customers to spend more time with you, and you can do
Exactly. We
that
say it
through
with content,
content.
right?
Yeah, you do
Yes.
it through
Yes.
content.
Dude.
So yeah, that's
Genius.
kind of been my journey of how I got to where I am now.
Love hearing that. Very similar as well, by the way. I didn't get a page to 70K, but it definitely was the humble beginnings of social media management, just through a couple of friends or connections. And you're right, you have to get to that pivoting point where you're like, I can't just keep posting stuff because there's no ROI for them. And I'm just an expensive retainer, And you're right, the conversation all of a sudden changes when you go, what are you trying to achieve? And how can we make it happen? It's a big shift from being the doer or the contractor to kind of like I think we've spoken about this on one of the first Q&As when you ran a masterclass on pivoting or changing your positioning to being like a strategic partner, or effectively kind of like you're part of the team and you're both moving towards the same goal rather than you're just another line on the expense. You're just like an expense item on the balance sheet that just like puts this thing out called content. So I appreciate hearing that as well, because I
Yeah,
wanted this to be as much of a conversation.
becoming like completely integrated into their businesses. That's
Yes.
really what
Yes.
what my goals, and that's actually already what is happening. Because my clients are asking like, we want a partner.
We want
We
a partner
care so
and we hire
much.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, can you be our partner? And
Yeah.
so I'm now trying to find like some kind of system about the whole onboarding process, getting
Yeah.
them, and even communication system, because I haven't quite figured out what the best communication system with them is yet. But
Yeah.
I
Well done.
so on the kind of on the topic of posting content and being seen, you have a
Mm.
Ukrainian mother and a
Mm.
Ugandan father.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering like what it's like to grow up in a household that in my mind are two extremely different cultures, yet at the same time are
Yes.
traditionally quite similar. What's it
Oh,
like
very good.
what's it like growing up in a household like that?
Thank you for asking, and a very, very sharp observation.
Mm,
It felt like both. It felt like like little did I know at the time, there was either, as a result of the culture that my parents had, there was either harmony at home, but because of everything that I had learned through the traditional backgrounds of my mum and my dad, when I went into the world, it felt like there was conflict or constant contrast because everything that they had learned from these like kind of old world cultures or countries was directly contrasting with this modern Australianism.
yeah.
So, for my audience and for everyone listening in, I was born in Australia. I'm one of three siblings in total. And so
Mm,
we, by default, have a biracial heritage from mum and dad. And we were born in this culture in Australia where this phrase has often been coined for kind of those like multicultural, first, second generation migrants called you're a third culture kid. You're neither
yes.
here, you're neither
Yes.
there. You're not your parents' generation, but you're
Yeah.
not the place that you were born in necessarily. And so you're kind of in this like fluid in between space where you have the liberty or the curse of adapting to whatever you kind of can play according to whoever you're with. And so I didn't realize it at the time, but I think because of the contrast and the duality that my mum and dad brought, mum was from that former USSR, very
Yeah.
hardened, very disciplined, very like
Yes.
by the book, you don't speak out of
Yes.
line, like, but it's kind of a tough love kind of situation, and
Mm,
and like to give you an idea, like that's a lineage where both of my great grandfathers on my Ukrainian side, like they fought in World War II. They both died basically defending, for Russia. And that's a
yeah.
very different life
Yeah.
experience to what I have here in Australia. And then to my late father's side, his family, remote, like East Ugandan,
Yeah.
tribal, very like everyone lives together, very
Yeah.
communal, very about
Yeah. I've
like
been there.
order,
So
hierarchy.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you've been there, right?
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
it one of the most beautiful
So
experience. I'm
different.
sure that you would have experienced. Beautiful country,
Yeah.
beautiful place. And I only went there for the first time when I was 18 years old. It just opened my mind altogether, but
Oh,
I
so
had a
you
new
never went
appreciation
back. You never knew what Uganda was really like until 18.
until 18, until
Yeah.
one of dad's best mates was getting remarried. He was the best man. And then mum
Okay.
cleverly decided to disguise that as a family trip for us to all go over there
Nice.
and finally experience my dad's heritage. So yeah, if you've experienced it and you've seen it, it was like I all of a sudden had this lifelong understanding of why my dad was how he was based on how he was brought up. Because I looked
Mm,
at dad compared to all the other dads in Australia, and I was like, hang on, dad, are you doing it wrong or are they doing it wrong? Because like,
yeah.
like there's just different
Yeah.
energy, different behaviors, different ideas or rituals of upbringing and education and values, etc. And I've come to appreciate there's no right or wrong. I think just what it meant at home was that I constantly learned to play both sides and understand a lot of different perspectives simultaneously because it was right in front of me. This isn't just like do a debate in high school kind of thing. This isn't like
Yeah.
someone being like, oh, like let's just think about the other perspective. Like it was a lived experience I had for
Yeah.
18 years and them fighting and reconciling and getting together and my siblings trying to figure out how to navigate it and us teaming up and us all fighting. So it was just like a lot of social dynamics constantly at play. And it was beautiful. It was all I can look back is like, I wouldn't change a thing with how it played out because I think the reason why I'm now fortunate to be able to navigate educate online, work with so many different clients or peoples of walks of life is
Yeah.
because I genuinely love understanding and having conversations like this
Yeah.
where I'm like, we're all the same. At the end of the day, the 8 billion of us, we're all the same, but we all
Yeah.
have different journeys of how we got to where we were. And I love understanding that and
Yeah.
then being able to attribute and be like, I understand why you have that perspective, or you say that thing in your content, or that's your core mission, or that's your highest value because your life is a reflection
Yep.
and everything you've lived is a reflection of where you're at. So I think it gave me a very deep and profound ability to get out of my own little bubble
Yeah.
because we live in a world that can be very polarized and very, you're right, I'm wrong, this is black, this is white, Republican, this, that, fear the other, versus like just a deeper compassion to be like, I can actually learn something from every single person. The janitor, the hobo, the president, the whoever, every single person I can learn from, and every single person can learn something from me. And I
Yeah.
think that's at least for me, that's an easier way to navigate a
Yeah.
world that, looks like the sky's falling every day. That's much more empowering. And I think it's what's kept me going
Yeah.
after all these years.
Yeah. I love because I think what the reason why I think I joined Time to Build was because I was pivoting again after so many
Mm,
times, and I was just like, okay, I don't think I have the energy to carry myself through this on my own, and so I sought
yeah.
out because I'm not super surrounded by people who think very
Yeah.
similar or think more in a more entrepreneurial
Same.
spirit or business
Yeah.
mindset. So I thought
Yeah.
I'm just going to seek it out online, and I knew Tom
Mm,
for a while. And the reason why I love this personal brand thing because it aligns so much with what I believe, which is that, and we'll carry into the next question as well,
mm.
which is going to be about your 41-year-old self, is that I think
Ooh,
you're now 31, right?
you're right. You've got it. Yes.
Yes,
Yes. Well
31,
researched.
and then in 10 years time you'll be 41. And it's the question that I wanted to ask was, oh yeah, what your 41-year-old self was going to look like. And before you answer this, I kind of want to give my
Mm,
perspective on, I think
please.
everything that every human being is today and is going to become in the future is already instilled inside of them. It is mostly about bringing that out. Everything that they are today and going to be in the future is already inside of them. And it's
Oh,
mostly your mission to bring
yes.
that outwards.
Yes.
And so everything, your whole character, personality, everything, the things that that you've gone through, it
Mm,
is your job, I think, to share that as much with the world. Because inherently, I think what they say is like from the age of 4, your personality and your character is already set in stone. It's already
yeah.
kind of
I've heard
like
this.
this is who you are and this is who
Yeah.
you're gonna become in the
Yeah.
future. Now it is your job to develop that, right? You
Mm,
can't just you
mm,
can't just stay in the same place and
yeah.
um, stay in the same place and not grow. You have to grow that character that
Yeah.
is already inside of you, and you have to
Yes.
bring that out.
So well
It's
said.
kind of my thesis on like God as well. It's like God put you here with a specific purpose, and it's your
Yep.
job to develop that. And that's why I love the personal branding, is because everything every human being is on this planet, somebody else can get value out
Mm,
of that. Just you inherently have value as a human being just by being alive. Just by being here,
100.
you have value. You don't even have to do anything, but you have
Yeah.
value already.
Yes.
Yeah, I really believe that. So I'm wondering, what is 41-year-old Daniel's life going to look like?
Wow. Wow. This and I think another mentor is the only one that's ever prompted me to ask and look that far forward. So thank you for asking the thoughtful questions and also sharing your ethos. Because I'll say in short, because this could become a 10-hour TED talk on my broader view of humanity and our spiritual development or
Yeah,
evolution, whatever we have to do on this planet,
yeah,
is I actually think to what you like the reason why personal branding and I get behind the premise of the program and really what a personal brand is that like it's not this overly engineered manufactured social veneer on
no,
this thing called social media was born 18, 17 years ago with the iPhone, right? But personal branding or personal brands existed for years, whether you call it Jesus, Martin Luther King,
mm-hmm,
like Nikola Tesla, like they all have brands that in the absence of social media we
yeah,
still talk about them.
yep,
And I look at that. I sometimes try and zoom out of like the bubble that we're currently in, and I go, what was it that each of those did? And so I kind of want to ladder back to what you mentioned. I don't know. I wasn't there for their upbringing. I've read some of their autobiographies, but it was the fact that they were able to either harness and cultivate that character that you touched on. I'm going to continue with your
yeah,
analogy because I just think it was so relevant to our discussion. Whether that when they were 4 or 10 or 15, and they either had the parents or the environment or the right catalyst in their life to continue cultivating and
yeah,
developing the skills or the unfair advantages that we call them, or even just the obsessions that everyone at the time thought this is going to go nowhere. but
Yeah.
it's that discovery and that curiosity led to the mastery or the discipline or the pursuit of whatever it is that they are now renowned for. And
Yeah.
if we had a world that just threw them on with veneers and told them what they couldn't do and didn't give them the chance to just, again, rediscover and remember who they actually are,
Yeah.
my big piece of what, to answer your question, what I feel the next 10 years for me is going to look like is I think I'm getting a semblance of what it's not going to look like. I'm taking
I
this
love that.
from Charlie Munger, who's
Yeah.
Warren Buffett's like a
I know him.
secondhand
Yeah.
man. And okay, so he talks about
Rest in
inversion
peace.
thinking. Rest in peace,
Yeah.
exactly. And so he talks about inversion thinking, and it's probably a concept you've heard a lot. And I think so much of our life, as you said, when you left university, you were like, I don't know what I want to do. And Matt, I can tell you at 31, I'm still humble enough to say, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know what's going on,
Yeah.
right? But what I'm learning bit by bit is life is not this idea of having this majestic, moment of clarity or revelation where it's like, this is my soul guided vision. I feel, and this is again, my thesis is you come here at 4 years old, or younger, you're pure, you're untouched, you're unconditioned by the world.
Mm.
And then from 4 to 18, just as a byproduct of the environment we're in, schools, teachers, preachers, media, parents, friends, neighbors,
Yeah.
everyone inputs you and just burdens you with layers and judgments and perspectives and beliefs of what you should be,
Yeah.
rather than actually enabling you to go deep
Yep.
and cherish and cultivate that little 4 or 5 year old that you actually have. And some people, don't get me wrong, they are blessed. Some people have the most supportive parents and the right
Yeah.
environment to just go full send in that direction. But I'd say for the majority of people, that they just imagine like you're a kid and you're just covered in blankets. And
Mm.
there's all these thick blankets that get thrown on top of you. And by the time you're 18, you've got so many heavy weighted blankets on top of you that you can't even
Yeah.
see, hear, or contact the little part of you that's deep inside. And so
Mm.
the real Trojan horse or the real journey of like personal branding, self-development, self-mastery, whatever you want to call it, and where I want to be at when I'm 41 is living a life where all of the layers and all of the beliefs and all the things that have been injected or added on top of me until this point in time in my life, I've actually stripped it all away. And what you're
Yeah.
seeing at 41, to bring this to a full circle, is a closer approximation of me at 4 years old, but just in a 41-year-old's body. So that 4 year old would look
Okay.
up and go, that is what we wanted to be doing
Yeah.
at age 4. That is what we looked up
Yeah.
to. It wasn't the fancy degree because everyone told you to do it. It
Yeah.
wasn't, this in the bank account. It wasn't this car because everyone told you that's what the version of success is. It's
Mm.
my 4 year old, and I'll go a step further. My 80-year-old look back and are like, yes, this is the version you're called to at this point of
We
your
are
life. And
aligned.
so we are 100%, we are
Yeah.
aligned. And I'm happy to own that. I'm happy to own that right now in this day, I'm still
Love that.
doing the
Yeah.
work on myself. I'm still unfolding. What personal branding is this remarkable journey of showing up online and being like, who am I?
Yeah.
Like it, let alone the followers, the influencers, the products, all the offers that we can make online. It's like, you got to figure out who you are, because if you're lost, so's your audience. If you're like, it's like the blind leading the blind. And so I think deep down, like I know, we can give people the 90% of the what. Tom and I talk about this a lot in Time to Build, you might remember, but we
Mm.
have one particular lesson where we talk about the being, and people don't expect it. And it's a bit of a curveball and it's a bit out there, but we're like, no one's talking about this stuff because this is hard to replicate. You can't playbook it. You can't template it. You can't copy and paste it. It's like, it's a journey you've got to go on because it amplifies everything. It is if you figure out who you are
Yeah.
and you're aligned, like you said, I love the word aligned. It's so, like, I know we say the word
Yeah.
authentic, but
Yeah.
I know aligned is
No,
sometimes
you guys use
palatable.
this a lot
When
as
you're
well.
aligned and then you add, you know what I mean? But yeah, and then you add like a product that is aligned, content that is aligned.
Yeah.
It's like rocket fuel. Everything just goes 10x
Yeah.
and becomes so much easier. And it's not a hack. It's not a funnel. It's not a sell this model. It's like, it's you. And that's,
Yeah.
to me, that's the magic, man. So I hope, at least with what we do, what I do, and what I hopefully model in my own life as an example is like, I'm still pulling away those layers,
Yeah.
but I'm doing that because I hope it can be a role model for others to do the same. And so that when we hit 41 or, a decade from now, we can be like, we're approximating more of who we always were. And
Yeah.
we've rediscovered that little version that was always there,
Yeah. That's so good because um I think not a lot of people do that. In general, if you go out into the world and ask people about maybe the choices that they made, like, oh, why are you doing this? How come you're doing this? Or how did you get to this point, right? Not a lot of people think about that stuff. Even when I'm thinking back to the
Mm.
architecture industry, and I have a lot of conversations with architects, and actually, funnily enough, my business is developing to start working less with architects and more with construction firms and other contractors because I align myself more with those kinds of people. They're a little bit more
Yep.
like
Yep.
straight to the point, rough cut,
Yep.
um,
Yep.
a bit more like that. So that's who I'm attracting now. I'm
Yes.
attracting those kinds of people
Yes.
by sharing my own
You attract what you
personality.
are.
Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely. The same thing you guys are promoting, which is I just hope people just sit down for 2 hours with a
Yep.
notebook and just
With a
write
notebook.
down the things you like, what you care about, what you enjoy, and you'll figure it out from there. And even
Mm,
just going through that kind of exercise,
exactly.
you'll find that you'll find kind of things that you're
Yep.
doing in your life that you're like, oh wait, this isn't
Yeah. How did I
actually
get
me.
here?
How did I get here? Why am I doing this? I got it from Theo Vaughn. Nothing changes if nothing changes, right? So
Mm,
you can make all those observations, but if you then don't decide to make a change
yeah.
in your own life,
Yeah.
nothing's gonna get better. Nothing's gonna work out.
So awesome.
Daniel, where did Mamba come from?
we had to we had to break it. Good on you. I was actually thinking we might have opened with that one because the audience is like, who or what is a Mamba? Like,
Yeah,
I think I didn't quite. Yeah, I don't quite give the full backstory. So hopefully this one's on record. Uh, there's. I know you said we can be a bit cheeky on this podcast, so I'm going to give you two
yeah.
versions. I'm going to
Okay,
give
go
you.
for
I'm
it.
going to give you the P. There's the PG, and then we get a little bit spicier. So the high level
I'll do the
is
spicy one.
do you go to the spicy one? Exactly. So first and foremost, in recognition, I guess in homage to the late and great Kobe Bryant, I played
Mm,
basketball my entire life. So I picked up a basketball when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and I
okay.
just kept on dribbling. And
Yeah.
so that was maybe coming into like the early 2000s, like maybe late 90s, just as like the young Kobe was literally signed to the LA Lakers, where he
Yeah.
would then eventually stay for 20 years of his career. Like you want to talk
Yeah.
about like loyalty is royalty, like that
Totally.
man played a remarkable career,
Yeah.
right? And so prolific, so dedicated, so disciplined, and also like he just there were so many times when I think in his career or in post game interviews he would always have such like just like poignant reflections that sometimes feel like he's talking about basketball, but other times it sounds like he's talking about life.
Yes.
And he's really someone that thinks deeply.
Yes.
And so, long story short, I resonated a lot with him. Share a birthday with him. So, August 23rd, he's obviously 78. I was
Yeah.
93. And so,
Oh,
in
no
playing
kidding.
basketball
You have the
growing
same
up,
birthday?
same birthday, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. And so it
nice.
was just like beautiful serendipity that I supported him. I backed him a lot. And then
Yeah.
just like I think the nickname just picked up years later in basketball inevitably. But the other story though, which ironically ran separate. So like I played basketball and I had my
Yeah.
basketball friends, but then I went to university
Yeah.
and it's where things get a little bit cheeky, but we'll throw it in the podcast as an optional blooper.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know how your universities are in your part of the world, but you often have like a what's called an orientation camp. So that's where
Yeah.
you'll then
Same.
go with, yeah, a number of like, first year students that are in the new degree, and you usually bunch up according to the degree. So there's the commerce camp, there's the
I see
engineering
where
camp,
this
there's
is
the arts camp.
going.
Wait. Okay, hold up, hold up. Wait, it's somewhat tasteful. We'll see how we go.
Okay.
Now, the committee at the time, so I did a Bachelor of Commerce, like a Bachelor of Business degree, essentially.
Hmm.
The Commerce Student Society, the story that came out later, this is what I was being told, was that they were planning to kind of like put a twist on the traditional beer bong. So if you think about the beer bong, if anyone's played drinking games before, I don't endorse this if you're watching from home, but this is just
Yeah.
what we did. You get a big tube, you get a big funnel, you pour some beer into it, and then you got to like chug it down and it's a
Yes.
race, right? Just classic, hazing, phasing, college kind of games.
Yeah.
They wanted to change up this year or the year that I was in it, I should say, 2011, I think I started, or 2012, I should say. They wanted to do what was called a dong bong. So they wanted to get like a phallic object from an
Okay.
adult shop,
Yeah.
and they wanted to plug a
Cut
hole
a
through the
hole
middle
through
of
it or
it and
something.
attach that, cut a hole through it. Exactly, cut a hole through it,
Yeah.
attached on the end of one of these bongs and call it
Yeah.
the dong bong. And apparently when they searched online for what the name of this big black phallic object was at a
Yeah.
local adult shop, it was called the Black Mamba, right? And so
Yeah. That's
so
hilarious, dude.
so so no one in the committee had the gonads to actually go to a shop and buy it, or maybe they didn't want to spend
Yeah.
the budget on a $100 anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
So no one did it. But then I rock up. There's like 50 guys, 50 girls, and as I mentioned, I've always kind of been like a black sheep in many environments. I was, and I
Yes.
think I was like definitely one of the few like with African heritage, or let alone even like dark brown skin heritage. So immediately I became anointed as the Black Mamba,
Yeah.
the object they didn't buy.
Yeah.
So nothing happened in terms of the drinking games and whatever like that, just to be clear. But what actually did happen was because the committee started all calling me the Black Mamba,
Yeah.
now 49 other guys and 50 other girls had started knowing me as Black Mamba before they met Daniel.
Oh
So now by the
shit.
end of the weekend, it was like I had no control over my name anymore. I was just Black Mamba. So
Love it.
that was the weekend before the
Yeah.
first lecture we had. So first microeconomics lecture, 9 a.m. Monday morning after the commerce camp. We're all feeling rusty and dusty. It's a full lecture hall, like 900 kids, like, 100 that went to commerce camp, 800 that didn't. And I
Hmm.
walk in and all of a sudden, like 3 rows up, someone barks and is like, yo, it's Black Mamba. And someone like
That's
4 rows over
crazy.
here goes, Black Mamba. And now all of a sudden this lecture hall is lighting up with people calling me Black Mamba. And I was like, I can't control
Amazing.
it. It's
Yeah.
it's now in the wild. And so
Yeah.
Black Mamba got shortened to Mamba eventually, just for abbreviation.
Hmm.
I'm glad it kind of did, because that's a bit of a spicy story to explain.
Yes.
And it has just followed me with every professional career I've had. Inevitably, someone
Yeah.
hears about it or someone sees it on my social. And to go back to our Instagram days, my first handle was actually Dat Black Mamba from
Okay.
all of this anyway. And then I eventually kind of like polished it up and made it my
You
my
changed it.
full
Yeah.
name. So there's the full story.
Okay. Cool, man. Yeah, you even in the time to build community, I think everybody's always hyped to see you. Even me, like even before this call,
Oh, appreciate it,
I
bro.
was playing like last Friday night. I was getting hyped, I was getting excited for the call. And I think that's kind of yeah, that's the energy that you're putting out there at the moment. You have this quote from Dr. John DeMartini,
Ah,
which
yes.
says, "You identify yourself by your highest values. So when you live according to your highest values, your truest
Yeah.
essence or spirit is able to fully express itself through your
Mm,
actions." And so I want to
mm.
ask you, Daniel, to you, what is one of your highest values that helps you express your spirit?
What makes this question uncanny is I can give you all three, because I actually went to a
Okay.
Martini seminar last weekend
Oh,
and
no
redid
kidding.
my values assessment. Yeah, so I live and breathe it. I share
Cool.
in my lessons what I'm doing myself, and has helped me have breakthroughs. And he's been a remarkable virtual mentor, but it was so beautiful to meet him finally in person
Mm,
after all these years. My three highest values, which will probably make sense as to how time to build is got the intersection of all of them,
yeah.
is what I call like teaching or educating. That's like number one for me. Number two is, or it's a close second, when I did the quiz, but it's effectively connecting or bringing people together.
Mm,
And then number three for me is creating or building, like leaning back on that systems Lego builder inside of me.
yeah.
And so I'm infinitely grateful that through Time to Build, I get to get up for 4 practicals and educate and teach what has impacted my life, that it can transform and impact others.
Yeah.
I get to bring people together on a call. I get to meet people from countries all over the world that before Zoom and before technology, imagine trying to get that many group of people together. That
Yeah.
just would not have been, and I have the privilege of doing that in my generation from my own
Yeah.
studio here at home. So
We
when you
live
see
in
me,
unique times.
we live in incredible times.
Yeah.
So when you see me light up, like I can't fake that energy. I am genuinely G'd up because I'm
Yeah.
so appreciative. When my mum and dad tell me that, like back in their time, they used to write letters to each other that would take 6 weeks to arrive,
Yeah.
maybe if it didn't get lost in the mail. And
Yeah.
we can just go ding on 50 bazillion different
Yeah.
tools or platforms that instantly get to us. And now I can teach and share and exchange. And I learn from my students as much as hopefully they learn from me.
Yeah.
Like when I get asked questions, when I get feedback, when I kind of have to sharpen the content that I do and improve it, like it's soul sharpening.
Yeah.
We're all getting sharper as a result. So, and above all, obviously, like I'm building tools, I'm building GPTs, I'm building Notion templates that are
Yeah.
hopefully valuable. I'm
Yeah.
building slides, and I'm hopefully building an experience that makes learning impactful. Tom says this a lot, and I really took this from him, that really like forevermore changed the idea of, you know what, I don't think I'm necessarily the most academic educator. I'm not
Mm,
by the book. I don't have a teaching degree. But to hear that feedback, that means the world, that you feel excited to show up, that I
yeah.
get feedback from people being like, the energy's there, they're engaged,
Yeah.
they remember this stuff. I'm like, that matters more for the
Yeah.
retention and implementation of information than if I just delivered the exact same content at a boring monotone for the entire slides, with really boring slides, no
Yeah.
stories, and I was just talking like this for an hour flat.
You'd lose me
Completely different,
immediately.
dude. Lost
Yeah.
you in 5 seconds. I lost myself.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that for 60 minutes, and so those are like how those have really converged, and why joining the Time to Build team became a no-brainer. I
Yeah.
already knew, I had semblance that they were my highest values, but I was like, this allows me to express them in a way that has meaningful impact. And I
Yeah.
would hope, from what you said, you do get to see me shine and show up because it is
Yeah.
honestly one of the best things I get to do in my entire professional career to date, like hands down. I've told
Yeah.
that to Tom a million times over. I told it to the students. I told it to my partner. I told it to everyone. I'm like, it is one of the craziest, coolest things I've been able to do. And this was not a career option 10 years ago. My careers counselor could
No.
not have said this. When I graduated my degree, this was not available at the
I
time.
mean,
No,
you didn't
no,
even
no,
think of this until you did that call, the
right?
call, right? So,
Exactly, exactly. And
um,
that's the thing about like pursuing, like you said, that list of like, what do you like? What do you enjoy?
yes,
And what is my 4-year-old going to be excited about doing?
yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm curious, what did cohort 4 community look like?
Like the actual experience
Yeah,
or just the,
what was the community like? Because for those who are listening, and I joined cohort 10, and so the
yeah,
community, what some of the messages that Daniel and Tom have been putting out into the community updates, that this right now it's insane. Like the community is
you guys are
so
insane.
engaged, most engaged they've
Yeah.
ever been before. And I don't know
Yeah.
whether that's just
No, no,
what you
no.
guys doing for
It's legit.
besties, but
It's legit. We're like
yeah. So I'm
behind. We
wondering,
message each other,
yeah. So I'm wondering, what did cohort 4 community look like? How did everything change?
Yeah, good question. And it's funny because I joined it from like, it was probably 50, 60% from the lens of I'm here to learn as a student. And
Mm,
then like 40%, maybe 50% ish on I want to understand, like how does this educational experience or container work? Like, could I
yeah,
emulate parts of it and plug it into what I'm doing myself? And at the time, to be completely honest, like I think this is a big part of maybe why Tom brought me on board. He didn't come from a experience or whether a professional or a personal background of managing and running communities. Yes, he had grown a following and an audience online,
yeah,
but that's different to having a community of people that you're regularly in touch with,
yeah,
feel like they have a sense of identity, they belong, they all know each other, they share values. Like there's actually an art. I've geeked out a little bit and kind of studied to understand, like, the engineering of cults and communities and massive movements in times past. And I think Tom, at that point, he'd done extraordinarily well to have just validated the program at the time. But he was at the point where he was iterating the program and focused so much more on just adding more slides and responding to students going from how do I build an Instagram on how do I build an Instagram audience, which was
yeah,
effectively cohort 1 and 2, which were just workshops. They were just
yeah.
45-minute workshops. And then
Okay.
cohort 3 and 4 became a launch with an email wait list, social
Yeah.
promotions, way more lessons, people being like, how do I make a product? How do I make a
Mm,
digital product? So, Tom, to give him full credit, he was like, I've got all these people on this platform called Circle, but I'm not proactively doing things to activate them, to have engagement. Like the weekly updates that we do, like that wasn't happening before.
yeah.
Tom would maybe send an update if it was like, oh, we've had to change a lesson, or, I'm a little bit behind on uploading a recording, but it
Yeah.
wasn't from the perspective of how do I help or leverage 100 people to all do the heavy lifting. And what I see a lot of solopreneurs or, usually cohort or community founders do is that they don't realize that they can actually like deploy or leverage
Yeah.
everyone in the community to
Yeah.
add to give back to it. And so you might notice something that we've done that was something I introduced in cohort 7, I think, is I said, hey, let's actually reward people that are contributing. And you
Mm,
know this, Lawrence, because
yes.
you're one of our top contributors from cohort 10, and we
Yes.
appreciate you, right? And
Thank you.
so it goes from now just like Tom and I aren't the only ones that are adding value to the community, but everybody else. And not saying every member of the cohort is. There are some people that are quiet. That's
Yeah.
okay. There are others that are really vocal and love getting on board. And so that was something that made us go, if we want to scale this and amplify our efforts, we need to think bigger than just the two of us. We need to stop bottlenecking
Yeah.
our touch points within the community. So yeah, cohort 4 was probably, it was a very good cohort, but there wasn't really the, hey, I want to hang out, hey, I want to link up. We have
Yes.
messages this cohort from people being like, hey, I'm in London, who wants to link up?
Yeah.
Where are the Lithuanians at?
Yeah.
People just like linking up and jumping on calls. You jumped on a call with someone else that you Q&A'd with at the end of a Q&A. Like
Yeah.
it was just like
Yeah.
that. I don't think that level of organic happened. I think it was the relationship felt like it was Tom being one to many and everyone just being them to Tom.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like everyone was classmates and peers together, all having nicknames and gags. You
Yeah.
guys are the night owls. Obviously, we love you guys staying up at
Yeah,
like
dude,
1
we
and
have a
2
group
a.m.
chat on WhatsApp.
I knew it. I didn't even have to assume it. I know
Yeah.
there's a group chat. You've got coordinated display pictures. You're
Mm.
always showing up on
Yeah.
calls like
Yeah.
that lights me up when I see that because I'm like,
Yeah.
that's something Tom and I can't engineer. Like that happens when we create an environment to allow people to feel like, oh, I can connect with other people. I can stick my neck out and ask questions and see if anyone wants to engage, rather than like, oh no, this whole community is run by Tom and Tom's the only one that gets to post within it.
Yeah.
And we wanted to really open that up. So that's probably the biggest
Yeah.
evolution we've had since cohort 4.
Yeah, and that took a while too before people started realizing like, oh wait, I can freely post. if I
Yep.
double post, it actually doesn't matter. People
Yep.
will appreciate it anyhow.
You
Yeah,
got
I
it.
love the community part about Time to Build because I've been part of other communities before, and the majority of them are just dead
Dead. Yeah.
because they come there for a couple of free resources, but nobody's really engaging with one another. And
Yep, and that's
so,
what we're looking to solve. Because dude,
yeah,
I've had that experience firsthand a million times. When I shared about the horror story of my first flopped community launch with this
yeah,
product
yeah,
project called Creators with Charisma, it
Creators
was
with
a community
Charisma.
I
Yeah,
launched. Yeah, dude, and I learned there's a difference between managing communities that are existing, which I did at university, I did at Google, I did at Uber, and starting one from ground zero. And I
yeah,
always explain my analogy is it's like you need to be like a plane or a rocket taking off.
yeah,
The most fuel is consumed at takeoff. And I didn't put that energy into trying to get mine up and running. That's why mine was just a colossal failure, basically. So
mhm,
I've learned now that yeah, you need like a catalyst. You need someone that's got a fire under their ass. And like kudos to Tom, he did that. He
yeah,
got cohort one from a 45-minute workshop to now a full 6-week educational program.
yeah.
But it took the rocket, and then I was then just come to bolt on and be like, sweet, let's get this party going. Let's keep the community humming right now. And I think that's how we work together.
Yeah. Tom obviously said, we've got to work together. We just have got to. What, and you, before you ran your own content agency, what was this content
Yeah.
agency? What did this look like? How were you delivering your content to clients?
It's actually very similar. You've done some heavy lifting in this discussion with
Mm,
what your journey was.
yeah,
It was very much a bit of a haphazard. I'll say yes to everyone, and I'm just a glorified freelancer. So
yeah,
my pricing was terrible. My scope was all over the place. I didn't learn about productizing services.
yeah,
So I was a social media manager. I was a semi-website developer, blog writer for another one. I was
yeah,
doing UGC content. I was an in-house creator for another one. So it
yes,
was really a period of me just like trying a lot of things and seeing what was sticking, what clients I like working with, who I was aligned with. So I
yeah,
can't say, man, there was any method to my madness in the first couple of years. It was like, if I just have someone that's interested in me through
yeah,
warm referrals and organic content that I was posting, I'll say yes and we'll figure it out as we go.
yeah,
Eventually that started becoming, all right, well, let's like lean in after 2, 3 years. And, through a lot of the work I did as a student through cohort for Time to Build, I was like, oh, one offer, one avatar, one set of deliverables or one
yeah,
clear outcome. I
yeah,
just never had that thinking. And Tom, it's ironic because I was running both the Storyteller Sprints, which was my community of like, coaching and helping other solopreneurs out there. But I also had my agency. And surprisingly, like that also influenced my agency. I fired like
yeah,
70% of my clients.
yeah,
I just went at the very few that contributed to probably 80% of my revenue.
yeah,
And I just like doubled down, became a strategic partner,
yeah,
started including more in my packages and started systemizing my processes. So the deliverables started becoming, like X long form videos per month or whatever it
yes,
may have been. And then
yes,
it was just an ongoing, you know what we get, I'll take care of this. I'm end to end. We do one call a month or one call a week. And I
yeah,
just started like really dialing in the scope and it was so much easier to communicate packages. So
yeah,
I hit the classic dilemma
absolutely.
that a lot of agencies do when it comes to delivery. And I was like, all right, I'm earning well. It's a good lifestyle, but I'm
Yeah,
probably capped at like 4, maybe 5 until I start
mm,
getting a team of editors and hiring someone and doing all of this. And I
yeah,
had to look down the barrel of my career and go, in 5 to 10 years, do I want to be running a video content agency?
yeah,
My honest answer was no.
yeah,
I love creating videos and I love doing them under the guise of my personal brand or VHS tapes like a 10-year-old,
yes,
like we were back in the day. But I don't think I love just churning it out for others 24/7. I don't think that's what my values are currently,
yeah,
orientated towards. So that's what the same time, ironically, where the universe works in weird, beautiful ways. But when I was hitting that point of saying, like, do I want to be doing this? Tom reached out. And that's when he put out that prompt to me
yeah,
and said, how do we work together? And it
yeah,
was just like I got to let go of one vine and grab
yeah,
the other one at the same
yeah.
time. And so I was still doing a bit of
Beautiful
work, on,
transition.
on the side with a handful of other clients that I really did enjoy working with and I was really
Yeah,
aligned with. So for example, like Flight Center, they're a travel agency in Australia. And so I do a lot of like long form YouTube videos for them, like
yeah,
SEO optimized so they can get an ROI and some educational videos for like tech and SaaS companies in the world that I came from, which was very tech orientated.
yeah,
But eventually I'm kind of sunsetted those out and yeah, really stepped up into being like, how do we turn Time to Build into, I'd hope, one of the leading kind of like educational programs online? How do we make it
yeah.
like the Rolls Royce
Dude, and it's
of
already
online
happening.
education? Oh, appreciate it, man.
Yeah, it's happening because I saw the branding last night, right, on the
Oh, yep.
builders call. I thought it's such a unique take on online education. The thing that you guys talk about a lot is customer experience, client experience, and the overall experience they have is so important.
So
And
important.
what I hope to apply at some point for myself as well is that there was no sales call. There was no
Mm.
trying to poach me into the program, trying to poach
Yep.
others into the program.
Yep.
Because I've been on the other end of those. I've been on those sales calls
Yep.
before where somebody
Yep.
else is trying to sell me, and they're like digging in, trying to dig in
Yeah. Yeah.
into almost your insecurities, and like they're
Yeah. It's only like
twisting.
manipulation. Yeah.
It's a little bit of manipulation, and I've been on
Yeah.
those calls, and every time I get off that call, it's like, wow, I feel awful.
I
That
feel
was
violated.
I feel violated. And that was not pleasant. Apart from right after it, for me, it doesn't affect me. Right after, it's
Mm.
like, okay,
Mm.
he's just trying to do his job.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're doing fine, Lawrence. If you're just going to join that program, that doesn't necessarily mean that in 6 months you're going to make this much.
Yeah.
If you do things, if you just keep going, in 6 months you'll be
Yep.
6 months better than you are now, and that's really the whole
Exactly.
point, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I love about Time to Build is that I didn't get poached into it, and hope to eventually not have to do any sales calls myself as well.
Yeah.
That I just
Yep.
apply a content system that just gets my clients to believe in me, and they just apply, and I just decide whether I want to work with them
Exactly.
or not. Which I think I'm already doing, but I want
Exactly.
to get to that point
Exactly.
where, I'm starting to
Yeah.
work more with the
Yeah.
biggest companies in the UK and worldwide,
Yeah.
and just be a creative content partner for them. That's essentially what
100%.
I want to move things into. But
You already are.
you mentioned that you are doing long form content for this travel agency, and
Mm.
what I noticed from your YouTube is that about 4 months ago you started ramping up long form content of yourself,
Oh yeah.
around maybe
Oh yeah.
10 to 15 or 20 minutes, maybe even.
Yeah.
And then Tom started doing that as well. So I want to hear the thought process behind posting long form content on YouTube. Why are you guys doing that?
Mm. I can't in any way say that like um uh, Tom directly influenced me to doing it, although I did see him showing up with
Yeah.
consistency. Like I first I think engaged with Tom's long form content years ago when he was
Okay.
doing like digital art, and then he had a bit of a hiatus, did his
Okay.
podcast era, and now he's come back and is just doing his talking heads. And to be honest, it's probably come through in the last couple of cohorts where he just as you know him, in the actual like cohort phase we go through, he emphasizes on the importance of like anything that is getting in the way of you sustaining or having consistency.
Yeah.
It's like you need to get rid of. You need to get rid of it. Like pick the platform that you could post on. If it's short form, once a
Yeah.
day for the next 6 to 12 months, or if it's long form, once a week for the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
And I had been dancing this like love-hate relationship on and off with Instagram for like 10 years.
Okay.
And I don't want to sound like that boomer that's like, oh, I miss the days when it was a chronological feed and like your friends actually saw what you posted and your
Yeah.
followers actually got to see what you got to see. But to me, that was like, it was genuinely just a time capsule of like a lot of things that I was doing, and I was genuinely sharing it with people.
Yeah.
And I think I just got so much brain rot and fatigue and cognitive
Mm.
exhaustion over COVID when short form just became this like swell, where I was
Yeah.
honestly just like craving depth and people that could articulate in a longer form. I also realized that, like, I think even I noticed my attention span was probably getting fried from seeing things in 15-second sound bites
Yeah.
versus being able to
The
sit
highly,
and,
super highly edited stuff.
bro, you know what I mean? Like, and even
Yeah.
like some of my clients were asking me to edit that way. And I was like, well, one, that's not me. Two, I don't believe in it. And three, like you're appealing to an audience that has like a 4 second attention. They're probably not your buying audience.
No.
Like I realized the people I want to speak to are like me, arguably at the
Yeah.
end of the day. They can sit, they have the respect, the patience, enough like mindfulness to sit for a 15-minute video or a 20-minute video and listen to a perspective, listen to an argument being developed, listen
Yeah.
to something of that nature. And so I went at the start of this year, I'm like, I'm just going to pick one platform. And like I shared, educating and teaching is my highest form. Educating and teaching can be done in 60 seconds or less, but it's
Yeah.
very shallow, it's very short, it's very lacking context. I
Yeah.
can't really lean into too many stories. And the audience that I know I want to build and speak to aren't predominantly on those platforms. Some of them are, but I know YouTube's the one. And dude, I've been living, breathing, and loving YouTube for about 17 years. I think I have
Yeah.
learned more from YouTube than I
Oh,
have from
absolutely.
sorry, I have learned more valuable, applicable life skills from
Okay.
YouTube than I have
Yeah.
from all of my formal education combined.
Yeah,
Everything.
100%.
I'm sure you've been the
Yeah.
same, right? Like
Yeah.
self-taught, autodidactic, don't know how to do it, YouTube it. There's a
Yeah.
tutorial for it. And so I owe so much to the platform and I live it so much that like I had one of my coach call me out last year and she's like, Dan, if you keep making this BS excuse up that you're going to start YouTube next year, we're 12 months is going to fly. I'm going to jump on a call with you again, and you're going to have posted no videos, and you're going to tell me for another year that you want to go all in on YouTube. She called me out. Like, this is a really,
Mm,
really like a front stab she gave me in this call. And I was like,
yeah,
she's so right. I have
yeah,
kept procrastinating and talking about wanting to be on YouTube and how much I love the platform, blah, blah, blah. And I'm clearly having these start and stops on Instagram. Let's see what happens with YouTube. And I hope, to your point, at the time of this recording, I've posted once a week and I love doing it. And I'm
yeah,
so inspired by it. And I'm getting a little bit better and a little bit better week by week. And it's like, it's the first time I'm like, I'm not checking YouTube Studio for stats every single day. I don't care if it gets shared or viral comments.
mm,
It's just like the art of just showing up and
yeah,
presenting a story, some information, something that's worked for me, something that I want to use that is meaningful for others, something that I will look back when I'm 80 years old and be proud of, and then my
yeah,
grandkids can look back on and be like, "Wow, like you captured these moments and these experiences rather than all this forgettable, swipeable, like
yeah,
15-second stuff." There's a time and a place for short form, though. I will also balance the
yeah,
perspective,
of
and Tom and
course.
I are leaning towards this. Going forwards, it is of our view that you need both short form for attention, traffic, virality, but you
Yeah,
need long form for nurture, nurture, authority, and conversion at the end of the
yeah,
day. And you want both. I just was just like, I'm going to start with one. I'm going to layer on another platform later on. And so this year I just went blinders, like I do with Time to Build, just YouTube. Oh, LinkedIn short, LinkedIn videos blowing up. Just lock in, Dan.
yeah,
Oh, Instagram Reels is having a trial Reels. Dan,
yeah,
block in YouTube. TikTok is having a renaissance with it. No, Dan, YouTube.
yeah.
Just like
Lock
keep
in.
posting, lock in. So
Yeah,
that's been my mission. I can't speak on behalf of Tom, but I know that he's got a ridiculous workflow that's like sub 2, 3 hours. He
yeah,
just turns it on,
yeah. He said
records
like
it, sends it to his editor, and just gets it done.
amazing.
And I was like, I can talk for 20 minutes without a script, but it will take me 2 hours to script a 20-second video and record
Yeah,
it and hyper edit it and optimize it for an algorithm. I'll take the YouTube any day.
yeah. Even my clients sometimes they say, well, why would my clients bother watching a 5 minute video? We should make this 3 minutes. I always tell them the people who are interested in working with you and who like you will
Yep.
watch a 30
Perfectly
minute
said.
video. I
Yep.
can't listen to a guy talk for 30 minutes about F1, but I
Mhm.
can watch a guy talk for 30 minutes about Pokemon cards. I can listen to them talk about that. It's because
Yeah.
I am interested in those things and others are not. If your clients are interested in
Correct.
working with you, they will watch your
Yep.
30-minute video just to get to know
100%.
you
If
more. And
if
then you
they're
get to spend
interested
time.
in solving a problem that you can
Yeah.
solve, they will listen
Yes.
to the video, and they like
Yeah.
you, they will listen to the video. And
Yeah.
maybe Hermosi says it and it, seed into my brain, but there's no such thing as too long, either just too boring or, and I'll add on to this, just like too untargeted. Like
Yeah.
if you're serving a very particular, if you're clear on who your avatar, your
Yeah.
audience, your customer, whatever it is, then you don't need to worry about the other 8 billion people in the world.
No.
You're probably only talking to like maybe
Yeah.
2,000 people in the world that are potential customers of your service or whatever it
Yeah.
is. And that's all you need to get in front of. That's all you need to
Yeah.
talk to, because when they eventually land on your page and every piece of content is speaking directly to them, you become their favorite person,
Yeah.
and they will binge, and they will go on a run.
Yeah, they say it's like Tom has I think a little bit over 420,000 followers and um I think a lot of that came probably from a lot of the viral videos that he was doing. But it's
Yep.
in reality, he could probably create the same amount of income for time to build
Yep.
with an audience of 20,000 people just by being and only speaking to those people. There's a couple of
Exactly.
people in like I mentioned this on last night's call as well, is that there's this guy called Vincent Hu and he has maybe below 3,000 followers and he's doing 40 grand a month. He does like the typical run a
Yep.
follower ad to your page and then just
Yep.
talk about your offer. There's not so much, there's not a lot of personal branding involved. There's not a lot of
Mm,
um,
mm.
super authenticity, that hyper level of
Yep.
authenticity that you guys talk about. That's
Yep.
not so much involved
Yep.
there, but it does allow
Yep.
him to generate 40 grand a month
There you
from
go.
a very
Followers don't mean
yeah,
dollars. It doesn't translate anyway. It may
no.
have maybe 10, 15 years ago, but an
Yeah, because you have the
interest-based,
million influencer
social graph
followers.
it just means it's such a different game.
Yeah. Yeah, those
Exactly.
those influencers with millions of people who post bikini
Yep.
pictures and know they can't sell a product for their life, you know. How
Yeah,
terrible is that you've built up such a huge audience and then you can't sell anything? That's how I
I
felt when
know.
I accumulated 70,000 followers in space of
70,000.
those, and then I couldn't sell for my life. Nobody's buying anything. It's like, what
Tom
is
had the
going
same
on here?
experience.
Yeah,
Tom had 80,000 from digital art
yeah,
and he could barely sell low ticket. No one even came to
yeah.
his first landing page. Tried to sell a course, sold
Photoshop
it at a
course, right?
loss. Photoshop course, right?
Yeah,
Sold it at a loss because he got hoodwinked by some guy that was trying to give him some massive paid ad strategy and blah blah blah. And I think he says the numbers was like sunk over 10K, 12K in launch, but only made back 5K. So a net loss, right?
yeah,
But the lesson that you had to learn is that quality of your audience matters
yeah,
more than the quantity of your audience.
yeah.
And that's what we stand by.
What's the thought process behind the value ladder, starting with smaller products, and then growing into
Mm.
bigger, more high ticket products?
There's definitely no right or wrong way to sell online. I think we've just kind of developed, and this is more credit to Tom, we've developed this kind of framework as just like a mental heuristic to help people visualize how to package up the
Yeah,
primary thing they do. You know, online we call this your core offer. And then
yeah,
everything else across that value ladder is either just like a different sliver or a different modality of delivering that same offer, that same thing that you do. And so Tom, it's ironic because this may be a case of do what we say, not what we do. Because Tom actually started
yeah,
primarily with low ticket digital products
yeah,
until he eventually built up to his core offer that
yes.
kind of birthed the other way.
And the
But for a lot of
credibility
people who are
for it.
beginners, and the caveat here is that Tom, exactly. And so in Tom's case, like he had a leverageable audience that he could make a low ticket digital product like
Yeah,
a full-time income effectively. But we're like acutely aware, and I'm sure as you would have seen from some of the slides, like I'm a bit of a data nerd. So I pull all the stats from the onboarding questionnaire when everyone tells us how many followers they have, how much they're earning per month, what platforms they're on. So we can look it down. And so that's why we tailor what we deliver to hit the majority of the cohort. Obviously, we'll nuance it when we jump on a Q&A and someone jumps on and is like, oh, I've got this many audiences and whatever. And then we'll tailor it to that individual based on where they're at. But for most people who are starting with less than 10,000 followers, maybe less than 1,000, for us, we'll often say, start with your core offer because the primary objective you're focusing on is to get to full time as soon as possible. It's not that you can't make a full-time income on a low ticket, let's say digital product or that first entry into your world, but it's you need volume and you're either cranking paid ads or you're an organic content wizard and you are somehow driving a lot of traffic early on. And you need to understand when you are getting started, there are so many things you're trying to master. You're trying to master what is your brand and how do you position yourself online, a content flywheel. You're trying to manage product creation as well. You're trying to build an audience and nurture it all the time, write email, set up automation. So it's like the one thing that we often direct people towards within a value ladder is
yeah,
we can go like, let's get your core offer dialed in, the one thing that you do really well. And
yeah,
then all of a sudden, you now have a lens to put through every piece of content or every promotion or every launch. Or you
yes,
can now go, hey, how do I bring people into my world? I can give them a lead magnet, which is like a free teaser of the core offer,
yep,
but primarily in exchange for their email address so that I can talk to them and
yeah,
warm them up over enough time. And so, you know, when we build out like the idea of a value ladder, which might be, you know, what's your free offer? A lead magnet. What's a low ticket offer? You know, less than $100 or less than 50. Maybe it's a
mhm,
sliver that you cut out of your core offer so that if someone pays for it, you know that they've raised their hand and they said, I'm pretty interested. You know,
yeah,
like often the point of a paid transaction or a low ticket transaction isn't because the low ticket will change their life necessarily, but they're a higher quality lead that has raised their
yes,
hand and shown interest and said, hey, I actually would love, I'm not ready to invest in your core thing yet, Lawrence.
yeah,
But if this thing did what it said on the tin and provided enough value, I've now developed more trust through both your content, your brand, and this very first touch point I've had on your value ladder that I'm now willing to invest more. And some people need
yeah,
that. Some people need to ramp up into your world through a series of like, I guess, paywalls, you could call it. Some people like, Tom Noske, shut up and take my money. I
yeah,
believe in you. Your results are good. I'm going to go the whole hog straight to the
yeah,
core offer, and that's okay. So a value ladder basically gives your audience an opportunity to self-identify and
yeah.
decide where they want to start entering into your ecosystem, and then really where that relationship goes from there.
It's the exact same in the whole video production space. Is what I
Yep.
realized as well is, wait, I need to build this client relationship over time and nurture that over time
Yeah. Yep.
because they're gonna do the cheaper thing today, but
Yep.
that means in 6 months' time, when I reach out to them again, they're gonna do the bigger package. And
Exactly.
this is exactly what happened at the beginning of 2025 for me, which is that I'd done a bunch of low ticket um, low ticket projects in 2024. And now I'm at all of their big projects. All of them are
Yeah.
coming back to me. It's
It's
like, hey, we
all
like what
compounded.
Boris was
Yeah.
doing. We like the
Yep.
delivery. Nurture them through content, right? I post content on my LinkedIn, nurture them, and now a year later, they come to me with their entire content budget.
That's exactly it. Because you want to meet people ideally where they're at. Like if there's one takeaway from a value ladder, it's
Yeah,
some people are red hot and they're on fire, and your
yeah,
core offer is a bucket of water. And that's going to put them out straight away. Others are maybe like problem unaware. They're not aware they have a problem, or maybe they are,
yeah,
and they're seeing you pop up a few times, but there's going to be a point in time where if you show up with enough consistency, with a sustainable content strategy like we mentioned, you
yeah,
know who you are, you show up with conviction, you have a core mission that you're aligned on. People can see that based on how often you're showing up, saying the same thing basically a million different ways. That's really what a content strategy
yeah,
is, right, at the end
yeah,
of the day. And you just keep saying, hey, I'm serving the world, and this is what I'm doing, and this is who I help, and this is what I love doing right now. Eventually they're going to warm up. They're going to hit that boiling point. Like you said, it's 6 months or it's 12 months. Some people always tell us, they're like, I've been watching Tom for 4 years. I have seen
yeah.
9
2 years for
cohorts
me.
go by. 2 years, right?
Yeah,
Exactly. I've seen Tom for 5 years. I've missed 4 cohorts. And I was like, now I was ready to go. Maybe
yeah,
because something happened in their life. It was a catalyst. They lost a client. They got burnt out of freelancing. They had a breakup. Something happened. And it's like, you want to be there. You want to have shown up for so long and built up enough positive association through content minutes, or the 7-Eleven 4 rule from Google about,
yeah.
7 hours, 11 touch points, 4 channels, etc.
Email
That
nurturing. Yeah,
email nurturing, that you just know at some point in the future, they're going to suddenly put their hand up, just like your video clients, just like everyone online, and go like, I'm now ready.
yeah,
That's all it is. And if you're impatient, you're going to burn out in a month because you think everyone's going to buy from you straight away, but it's just not how
yeah.
humans work.
What's the biggest myth in the online education sphere right now?
I love that you asked this, because I,
Mm,
I did see it in the some of the notes you shared ahead of
yeah,
time, and I have been waiting for a chance, I think, to probably articulate or express this. So I think the biggest myth that is going around right now is, as of June 2025, we're in an era of this rapid proliferation in AI and its
yeah,
capabilities. And so the very quick doomsdayer is probably going to jump to a conclusion and say the value of information goes to zero. It's commoditized. Online info, gone. The information reset, the information, whatever, it's got no chance. Online education doesn't go anywhere. And I agree to a certain level, but there's always nuances in life. And I don't think there's an absolute here. I think what it does, and what this era does to refute this myth, is it wipes the 80 to 90% of people that were in it for a quick buck. The 80 to 9% of
yeah,
people who aren't real educators. And I don't mean qualified. I don't mean, have like an incredible result, but I mean people who are genuinely true masters of their field and are inspired and called to serve other people. And they feel like their mission on the earth is to teach others, not because they got some chat GPT generic formula, but because they've been in the trenches, they've lived it, they've done it themselves, and then they've helped and served others at scale before teaching it. So they've now created these kind of like these unique, we call them unique mechanisms, but you can basically call it your unique herbs and spices. Whatever process that you've developed in your field of expertise or field of authority, it's basically just like unique information. It might not be groundbreaking, but the fact that you now can learn from people that you resonate with, that share similar values, similar walk of life, and they can convey that online through an internet connection. I don't know about you, but there are some things in life where I'm still happy to learn them, probably till the rest of time, from another human. I might have AI to like source some information and to check stuff, but I actually think this is a really exciting time for the online education space, because it's going through this like recomposition. It's bumping out all the people that are just like the shiny objects, the fakes, the frauds, the people that are just like putting together crap information on AI and bundling up in a boutique high ticket course that's paywalled. And right now it's going to people that really know how to deliver an incredible experience. And I'm not here to toot my own horn, but I'd say that what we have built at Time to Build is pretty unique, and it's setting a standard that I think is getting a lot of attention. And I think there's a lot of really great educators out there that we also admire and we look up to. And I'm like, they are going to be defensible in this era. And until people are really committed to delivering results for students, not $100,000 launches, not massive wait lists, not all the marketing and hype and sizzle and sexy landing pages. But at the end of 6 months, your students go, that program changed my life. This is what's changed ever since. Like when you create real transformation, information that became implementation, that became transformation, that to me is the mark of real mastery in the online education space. So I'm actually looking forward to it, because now all the noise and everyone that just like rushed into the gold rush in the last 3-4 years, I think they're about to get flushed out and maybe put on their ass. But that's my hot take as of June 2025.
Cool. Daniel, thank you so much. Loved having this conversation with you.
Man.
We went for an hour and a half, I think. So we're going for quite a while. Thanks, Daniel.
My pleasure, man.
Cheers,
so good. Take care, Lawrence. Catch ya.
Cheers. Bye. Awesome.